Yes! 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 Come on! No! No! Come on! No! 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 Ah! Oh! God damn it! Wait! We can do it! We can do it! We can do it! Oh! Oh! Why? Why? Why do you hate me? Oh! Oh! Oh no. I'm not crying. I've got soot in my eyes.
It's the anti-checker.
We will return to your scheduled programming shortly, or we are currently experiencing technical difficulties.
What is going on YouTube? And Auntie, of course, moved. Michael J. Crawford, the Anti-Checker here, and good to see all of you that are here. Thomas was first, as is per normal. Bradley says, "Zup, y'all." Hey, Bradley. Mike is here from Columbus, Ohio, as normal. Thomas says, "I'd rather be in jail in Siberia than Caroga." Agreed, 100%. And number 19 he wants. We got.
Presenting the newest incarnation of the Joker.
What? What are you talking about? That's not the Joker. That's just some guy.
Oh, right. Sorry. This is the new incarnation of the Joker.
Oh, great.
Oh my goodness,
it's Ronald McDonald's disembodied head! There it is. The Joker coming.
We got it. We got it. Ah!
I got to remember that I rearranged the buttons a little bit. Yes, Joker coming soon to a theater near you. BIRDOPREY is here, says Kapla, and says that can be arranged, threatening Thomas Potts with jail time in Siberia. Interesting that BIRDOPREY basically just came out and admitted that the that he has connections in Russia. Says the animation volume was low. All right, let me bring it up a little bit. I'm just learning how to do this stuff on Streamlabs, so I'll bring this up and we'll see if it sounds better the next time someone does a super chat or donation. Let me see. That's the setting for the donation, I think. And so now let's go to super chat. Is that? Come on. Save changes. Which one am I in? Sorry, I suck at Streamlabs. This is the riveting part of it. Where is that? I always get confused on here. So, yeah, that was donations. So we want super chats, and we'll bring the volume up on super chats as well, and see if 60% volume is good. All right. And Darth is saying, a little louder in your mic. You guys, I just can't make it right. All right, so that was because I had to change the sound settings for Mrs. Anti-Checker yesterday. So let me go in here and go to the audio. And volume range. Let's see if we do... I don't know if this will help. You let me know if I just made a change to the volume settings. Let me know if that fixes it. And okay, no, that was stupid. That was the speaker volume.
Hello, world.
I got him! Great kid! Don't get cocky!
All right, so I'll try that. Let me know if, as of right now, if it sounds any better. Meanwhile, let me get back to the chat here. Luke says, Jay, then, hey, good to see you, Luke. Vile Mike says, howdy. Birdoprey comments on new animation. Tell me, did that, now, since we just got a new super chat, let me know if that sounded a little better.
Hello, world.
I got him! Great kid! Don't get cocky!
So let me know, how's that sound? Because yesterday you guys were complaining that when the super chats came in, it was way too loud. So I'm trying to get the sound right, and it's hard to do because I can't hear it from your perspective. So I need your guys' help to tune it, so to speak. Good morning to you and your house, I meant. Good morning, Darth. And I figured, oh, okay, says good morning, thank you, and your house. I get it. Don't forget, people, smash the like button, share via social, set chat to live, donate if you can, subscribe, turn your mic on before you stream, and down with Caroga and Lee Sing. I don't get that last part, rock solid. I showed my mom the look of the new Joker, and she laughed at it. Yeah. Mike Richards says, I'm not crying, I've got soot in my eye. Bird needs to upgrade from the coal-powered computer. I think you're right. I didn't even think about that. That's funny, but yes. So Luke says 8.9, 8.9. Yes, we are at 8.9, and which is awesome, especially considering how little content I've been able to get out lately. But that, I'm feeling cautiously optimistic right now that that's going to change very, very soon here. And I'm fingers crossed. I think I'm going to be able to get some stuff done today. Yosef puts in €2 and says, how about a morning spin class? You got it, my friend. We can always use a morning spin class.
We got it. We got it. Ah.
There we go. So, excuse me. Dan says, is your voice croaky? Well, apparently, yes. Peter Quinn is here. Good to see you. What's this live about? Well, apparently my voice. But no, Dan, today just kind of hanging out with you guys. Whatever we're going to talk about is what we talk about. Dar says, that sounds good, but it's just you, but it's better. Okay. The audio is fine. Stop messing with it. I will stop messing with it unless somebody else complains. How's the spine getting on A-Checker? Any further forward with that in the insurance? Yeah, I saw the doctor yesterday. Man, just healthcare systems are just stupid. So I had to see my primary care physician, who then referred me to see a specialist on joints and pain. That doctor then referred me to an orthopedic surgeon, who in turn referred me to a second orthopedic surgeon who specializes in the procedure we're talking about doing. All of this would have been so much easier if just the first doctor said, let's go talk to orthopedics. You know, but I understand we got all the red tape and everything that doctors have to go through, but it's stupid. Because I've been dealing with this now for 3 months, and just now am I starting to think, oh, they're going to actually do something now. So the orthopedic surgeon I talked to on yesterday basically looked at my knee, the MRI and everything, and determined that probably the best procedure moving forward is going to be a partial knee replacement. Because if you look at the knee, one side of the knee looks fine, and the other side looks like somebody took a blender in my knee. It's a mushy mess. So with that, I will hopefully, so the partial knee replaces one side but not the other. And that's great. But this doctor that I was referred to doesn't do partial knees. He only does full knees. And Sean, thank you so much. Put £2 in. Greetings from England. Good to see you, my friend. Nerdrotic gave me a shout out. Nerdrotic is an awesome guy. He's a good friend of the channel. Gary and I have been friends since Gary was a tiny little channel, smaller than mine. And so I have nothing but love for Nerdrotic, and every now and then he does show me a shout out, and it's so kind of him because he doesn't have to do that. So, and he does show up in the live streams every now and then, but I know, and I totally understand, even he hasn't shown up a lot lately, and that's because the man has 115,000 subs. He has got a full-time job right now trying to keep up with YouTube. So I do not hold any grudges against him for not showing up as often as I'd like. But thank you. And thank you, Gary, if you happen to see this. Anyway, so the doctor that does the partial knee replacements, I get to talk to this coming Monday, and hopefully at that point we'll actually schedule the procedure and I can get past this phase. I am so done. And I keep telling people, look, I don't, you know, I told the doctor when I was talking to him yesterday, I said, look, I don't care what you do at this point. You lop off my leg right now. I just want the pain to stop. So we'll see. Thomas says, what isn't finished about the Goliath? I'm not going to say that on the live stream, Thomas, because we wouldn't want to spoil any surprises now, you know, would we? And Brian says, it sounds good. Clearly you don't want to get cocky. Yes. It's 16:51 in the UK. Well, now it's 16:57, but I hope that all my friends on the other side of the pond are doing well. Rock Salt says, let's sigh. Like Pepe Le Pew, let's sigh. I get it. I get it. What are you most looking for to Star Trek doing in the future? Getting back to being Star Trek, Dan. That honestly, that's all it is. I want Star Trek to feel like Star Trek again. I understand, and don't get me wrong. There are some people, like good friends of the channel, people like Daniel's Hot Topics, and others that actually enjoy the newer Star Trek. But for me, it just doesn't work, and it just doesn't feel like Star Trek. That's not to say that those people are horrible people for liking it, but for me, if you're asking my opinion on it, I think that Star Trek Discovery is basically a pile of steaming hot garbage, and I think that Picard has the potential to bring things back in the right direction, but based on what we've seen so far, doesn't look like it's going to do that. So I just want Star Trek to be freaking Star Trek. You know, now that with the CBS Viacom re-merger thing, hey, whoever ends up in charge of Star Trek, I don't care if it's Kurtzman or you bring in somebody else, although I prefer you bring in somebody else. Take a look at what made Star Trek great and replicate that. It's that simple. So did you figure out how to use the chair in the war room? Not yet, Thomas, because I got distracted and then I realized that I had to get the live stream going. I was late. I'll mess with it later if I have time. The actress who played Penny on The Big Bang Theory is doing a voice of a lead character in a DC cartoon. I'm not surprised. She's done voiceover work before. You know, good for her. So, yeah. Mr. Londell says, I'll be lurking in the shadows. Well, lurk away, my friend. Luke says, healthcare systems aren't stupid, only yours. I will agree to disagree on that one, Luke. Because I would dare say, Luke, and that there's a reason that many people, particularly many wealthy people, go to the United States when they need major procedures done. So don't pretend that just because you have the payment side of it all figured out that your healthcare system is all that. Son of a Red Shirt says, Antrick and everybody else, good morning all. The girl who played Penny on Big Bang Theory is named Kaylee Kuko. That's right. And she's doing the voice of Harley Quinn. Oh, I could see her doing a Harley Quinn if she can do that accent. I can see that. And Sean, thank you for the €2. Says, greetings from England. Nerdrotic gave you a plug. And thank you again. I do appreciate it, Sean. And welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I assume you probably came over from Nerdrotic's channel. And so thank you so much, my friend, and welcome. Sounds a lot worse than here, Antrekker, with the runarounds. Well, That part is really annoying, and that is something that really was not like this just a few years ago. Unfortunately, Obamacare has kind of ruined American healthcare. Luke says, number 6, you got it. And let's see if I... Oops, what did I just do? I hit the wrong button, didn't I? Sorry about that. Number 6 is what we're after. Let's do that.
Ah, the suffering. I have such sights to show. Oh, that! Oh. What's the do?
A little classic Pinhead action. And by the way, Sean, just so you know, since I assume you're new around here, whenever you put in a super chat, you can choose one of these super chat rewards. So for a $2 or €2 or £2 or €2 super chat, you can select any of these super chat rewards numbered 1 through 26. I know you probably don't know what they are, so just pick a number between 1 and 26, and I will play it. That one was number 6, and if you're a Hellraiser fan, you'll get the joke. Star Trek The Next Generation Home Soil is so boring. I don't know what Star Trek The Next Generation Home Soil... Is that an episode name? Because if it is, I don't remember that episode. Someone, Tanya Harding, Andy Trekker's knee. Jeez. You know, I lived in Oregon when that whole thing went down. Tanya Harding, gotta love her. So, and of course, Bird of Prey would immediately think of that because I believe isn't the dude that was working for Tanya Harding wasn't he brought over from your organization, Bird? I'm pretty sure he was. I hate it when you try to get a medical prescription refilled and instead they give you a cheaper version of the medicine. And I'll tell you, yeah, and one thing I can't stand, like with prescriptions, Mrs. Anti-Checker has been taking the same prescription for years and years and years. And so we go into the pharmacy every month to refill her prescription. And we go in the other day, and they couldn't give her a prescription because the official date on the prescription was the following day. They had it all ready. They just couldn't give it to her. Or if they did, they would have to charge full retail price instead of having the insurance pay for it because the next day was 30 days. And it's like, this is so freaking stupid. It's not a freaking narcotic, and it's... you know, something she's been taking for years and years. What's she going to do? Stockpile, you know, a bunch of diabetes medication so that she can, what, OD on diabetes medication? Really? Whatever. I'm feeling feisty today. Bradley, Antiker took an arrow to the knee and had to retire from adventuring. Now he just yells at people about losing their sweet rolls. That's... strangely accurate. Joseph says, Antiker, I'm one of 3 people worldwide who actually rewatch Discovery. Thanks for not hating me. No, you know what? I don't hate people for liking something I don't, nor do I hate people for disliking something I do. You know, there are people that think that Avengers Endgame was a horrible movie. I loved Avengers Endgame. That's okay. The guy that you see in my videos from time to time, the picture of the guy that goes, but wait, that guy, his name is Andrew, good friend of mine, goes to the same church as me, and he really liked The Last Jedi. I don't hate Andrew for that. I think he's wrong, and we'll have spirited conversations about it from time to time. But there is, and this is something that, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a tirade here, because this is something that we in the nerd community need to wake up and smell the damn coffee about. We need to stop crucifying each other because we disagree on something. And I don't care what it is, because it can be whether or not The Last Jedi is the worst movie ever or the best movie ever. It could be whether Star Trek or Star Wars would win in a fight, right? We've all had that conversation. It can be whether or not Stargate is better than Battlestar Galactica. It doesn't matter what the subject is. We tend to turn on each other and attack because we disagree on something that really isn't that important. Now, that being said, we should stand together when we see something that we think is badly done. Now, not everybody's going to think it's badly done, but that's okay. So, for example, I know Dan just mentioned the Batwoman TV show. Yes, and the Batwoman trailer looks like a freaking dumpster fire on a train that is crashing, right? It looks absolutely horrible to me. I'm sure there'll be some people that like it. I will be the first to scream from the rooftops about how horrible this show is, but I'm not going to say anything about the fans of that show. You know, if you watch the Batwoman show and for whatever reason you like it, that's fine. However, to me, it looks like absolute garbage, and I'm going to speak up about the garbage, not about the people. You know, except for the people that make the garbage, maybe. Like, I have no problem with someone attacking Rian Johnson because of what happened with The Last Jedi. And even though, for example, I like Star Trek 2009, but if somebody wants to attack J.J. Abrams because they don't like what he did to Star Trek, I'm perfectly okay with that. What I'm not okay with is for people to say that anybody that likes Star Trek 2009 is an idiot or something. Wow, that was a long-winded answer. Sorry about that. And so let's get back to the chat. And by the way, guys, just so, and I know you guys know this for the most part, but sometimes we get new people. I do not, you know, any new people, I do not require you to put a super chat in to read the chat, obviously, so I tend to fall a little bit behind in the chat. And if you want to make sure I read your chat message, please put at Anti-Trekker spelled correctly with the dash in between Anti and Trekker, and it will highlight on my screen so that I will see your chat and hopefully get to them all. Greetings, Anti-Trekker and fellow nerds, says Stromer. Good to see you. And Yosef says, and of course, Super Chat 23 is the best. Well, yeah, that we know. I think that's the one thing that we can all agree on, is that Super Chat 23 is, in fact, the best. At least we go to the doctor and wait, Anti-Trekker, and then with benefits, we just wait to see you get basic sick money to start through. At least we go to the doctor and wait. Then with the benefits, we just wait to see you'll get basic sick money to start through. I'm not sure what you mean by the basic sick money part, but yeah, it's the problem is that with the American healthcare system is that there's so many layers of oversight between the insurance companies and federal regulations that everything has to be approved by 17 levels of bureaucracy. And it really is laughable, like what we see on Futurama with the bureaucrats. It really is that bad. And unfortunately, Obamacare made it 100 times worse than it was before. Luke says, Andrew, you have 50 states and 5 times our population. Makes perfect sense that you would have something world-leading specialists in greater numbers out there, nothing to do with healthcare. The world-leading specialists have everything to do with healthcare. The quality of care in the United States, I'm sorry, is second to none. Now, people like to cite various statistics to try and argue against that, even though those statistics are not directly reflective on the quality of the healthcare. That being said, I think that we do have an access problem, and I think it needs to be dealt with. But the problem is that the two main political parties in the United States are too busy being at each other's throats than to actually worry about fixing something. Dan says, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is just as annoying with Coulson, how he dies and then he can still be on the show. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that, honestly. I think Coulson should still be dead. And Rock Solid says Endgame was terrible. Agree to disagree. Dr. Alex is here. Says, hi, Anti-Trekker. Sorry I failed to wake up yesterday. Did you open the mead? No, we did not. Mrs. Anti-Trekker was here last night, but we did not open the mead in honor and reverence of you, my friend. So we will wait until you can be on while me and Mrs. Anti-Trekker are both available. She's not here right now. Otherwise, I'd suggest we open the mead now, but it is a little early in the day for mead for me. Darren is in the house, says, Doomcock's video this morning about Google's search results when it came to STD was interesting and funny. It's always very funny when Doomcock and Harvey laugh. That's true. Doomcock, I love Doomcock's regular videos. I think they're the best out there. And so, yes. And Anti-Trekker, does this mean we don't attack Caroga? Mr. Captain? I'm not sure what you mean. Why? What did I say that made you think that I'm saying we should not attack Caroga at all? If Disney was doing your knee care, they would inject you with flubber. That would be fun, actually. Star Trek ships would win hands down, depending on the laws of the universe we put them in. Well, I'm sure you've heard me before, Peter, but yeah, if you look at what is objectively true about both sides of a fight between a Federation ship and a ship from the Empire or a ship from the Republic or whatever Star Wars faction you choose, the biggest determiner of victor is going to be the weapons range. And in that respect, there is no competition. Star Trek has weapons that have thousands of times the range of the weapons of Star Wars. Luke says, it's the curse of the fandoms. Only 1 to 2 steps away from fanaticism, hence the omnipresent no true Scotsman fallacies and fandoms. That's true. However, and in fact, the word fan comes from fanatic. So that's, you know, we do tend to be fanatical about our love of our various franchises, be it Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who, Battlestar Galactica, SG-1, whatever it is, when we tend to love it to the point of fanaticism. And we have to be careful to not let our love of X turn to hatred of people that don't appreciate X, right? So just because you may love Star Trek and you think Star Trek is the greatest thing ever, and you may think Star Wars is just a silly space fantasy, right? Which is the attitude of a lot of Star Trek fans. Now, that doesn't mean that the Star Wars fans are bad people. It just means that they may appreciate fantasy. Now, on the flip side, you talk to a Star Wars fan, and they may see the high fantasy, ultimate good versus evil type of thing that they do in Star Wars to be really engaging and really exciting, while Star Trek is just for boring nerds, right? Okay, that's fine, but that doesn't mean you should hate the boring nerds. You just need to recognize that Star Wars is more your thing. I'll do me and you do you should be far more common attitude amongst basically every community. I agree. Now, Infinity War and Endgame is 11 out of 10 for a double feature. That would be a hell of a double feature. I don't know if I could sit through Infinity War and Endgame in one sitting, but as long as there's no intermission with Captain Marvel, that's all right. Yeah, it's like with the asthma inhalers. Some of them have a number on the side, and when you get 0, need a new asthma inhaler. That's true, but the problem is if they say, but you can't have it until tomorrow. Well, I need it today. Sorry. Joseph says, about the TLD, I thought you were going to mean maybe The Last Jedi. I actually do not care about the U.S. politics transferred into movies, so the whole SJW me too. But I left the cinema pissed. Unnecessarily long and disappointing movie. Well, and that's the thing. A lot of people didn't like it for different reasons. The politics was definitely a problem for me. But notice, like when I did my massive review of The Last Jedi, I left the politics out of the review and just stuck with what the movie shows. And the problem is that like the character assassination on Luke Skywalker, the humdrum plot, the whole Canto Bight thing, it was just a mess of a movie. Dan says, I have Discovery Season 1 on DVD. I wouldn't, or I would have never seen it. I don't have it on DVD, but I do have my subscription to CBS All Access, and, yeah. Stromer says, I crave forgiveness. I didn't include anti-seeker of I didn't include anti-seeker of attention, sniffer of bottoms, occasional barker, sleeper extraordinaire, and puppet mistress of Turdistan in my original greetings. That's okay. And you can have your forgiveness, Stromer. Dahak says, it's like Supergirl. I like it, but my friend thinks it's crap. Not gonna fall out over it. Differences make friends. Just the likes. Yeah, I agree, and that's the thing. The funny thing is, like, okay, so Supergirl, I don't care for the Supergirl show, right? I only watched the first couple episodes, didn't care for it. But if everybody I knew, and every single, and actually I'll use The Last Jedi because that's a better example because I'm Andrew. If I disowned Andrew as a friend because he liked The Last Jedi, then what does that say about me, and what does that say about who I'm going to talk to? I'm only going to talk to people I agree with 100% of the time? Well, then I'm going to be living in a bubble. A bubble like we always accuse people that we disagree about of being in. And I'm not going to do that. I want to have friends that have different opinions than mine. I know BIRDOPREY and I disagree on some things, right? That's okay. Mr. Miles and I disagree on some things. That's okay. Lore Reloaded and I disagree on some things. But they're my friends. And that's all right. If we were exactly the same, then one of us would be unnecessary. BIRDOPREY, speaking of which, says, little known fact, Turdistan has outlawed healthcare to poor people. No, actually, you misunderstood. We've eliminated poverty, so there's no healthcare for poor people because there's no poor people in Turdistan. And Dr. Alex says, okay, look forward to you both being in the room at the same time. Well, I'm sure you do, Dr. Alex. I once posted something on Reddit that spelled Star Trek actress name incorrectly, and people got really angry, and thought I was being disrespectful. And, I've done that. If you misspell something, as long as it's one thing to make an honest mistake. And look, we're typing stuff quickly. We're trying to get through conversations online. I misspell stuff all the time. I'm dyslexic. Heck, half the time, you know, if you've ever seen me talk in a chat, you know, half the time when I write the word the, I misspell it. I put T-E-H very, very commonly when I type the word the, and that's my dyslexia kicking in. However, now that's one thing. And if somebody misspells a word, I don't ever get mad at them for misspelling a word. Now, on the flip side, if people sometimes will use terms directly intending to be offensive or derogatory, and I think that can be a bit much, right? So, for example, and this is a light example, but it's an example. People, when talking about, say, the 2009 Star Trek movie and its director, and they put his name down as Jar Jar Abrams. Now, look, I know people that do that I love. Doomcock, great example, right? And if it's done for comedic effect, it can be very effective. However, when people take that kind of thing seriously, it does kind of turn into almost hate speech. And so I try not to do that unless I'm really worked up or making a joke. Let's see. On the healthcare system, I do not understand why saline 4 has to be like $200 US and an ambulance like 5,000. That makes the system expensive. Well, a lot of I don't know about in other countries, but in the United States, a lot of it came about because, contrary to popular belief, we've actually had a form of catastrophic universal health care in this country for some time, thanks to Ronald Reagan, who basically made it so that a hospital cannot turn down a patient due to their inability to pay. They have to stabilize anybody that comes in. And so what do? They overcharge the patients that can pay to make up for the patients that can't. Let's see. Halloween is getting 2 more movies, Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. Really? Ozzy, that's not good news. I liked the last Halloween movie. They should have left it at that. Disney is rebooting Predator. I have not heard that, but I would be down for it if they do it well. Mead, did somebody say mead? It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Yes, I do have a bottle of mead from Dr. Alex, but we were going to break it open during the show last night. Dr. Alex was supposed to be there so that we could taste it. Mrs. Antitrekker was on the show with me. However, since Dr. Alex didn't make it, we did not try it, so we have to wait. Let's see. I want to see Last Blood, but the trailer that dropped today was awful. I didn't see it. I'll have to check out that trailer, but I honestly never been a big Rambo fan. I kind of liked the first one, the very first one. But I think that was First Blood, wasn't it? Or was it? I'm trying to remember. Or was it just? I'm trying to remember. But it was the very first one where where the whole Vietnam thing, and I thought it was well done. But yeah. And say, Mr. Lundell says, unfair analogy. We know nothing about Star Wars weaponry. That is not true, Mr. Lundell. We do know some things about Star Wars weaponry, and the range of said weapons we know very well from various things that you can pull from the movies. For example, in Episode 4. You can look at the distance that the TIE Fighter was from the Millennium Falcon and while Han was trying to get it into weapons range. When you look at The Last Jedi, and I know a lot of people hate that movie, but it is canon, we see the maximum range of the most advanced Star Destroyer in the galaxy is the max range is about 15 kilometers. And so you can easily tell by looking at, or not 15, but more like about, if I remember correctly, actually more like 50, I think. But the range is infinitesimally small compared to in Star Trek, where we've established ranges of in the hundreds of thousands of kilometers. And so, let's see. Roxod says tornado sirens. Yeah. Okay, not sure. You have a tornado going on? I hope not. If so, you should be taking cover and not talking to me. Antrigger, are you pre-ordering the Note 10? Actually, yes and no. I can't really explain in too much detail, but it has to do with my employer. But I will be getting a Note 10, so I'm very much looking forward to. But it's basically as a direct result of who I work for. Without getting any detail, that's all I'll say. However, I'm getting the Glow one, which I'm really looking forward to seeing. I don't know what it's going to look like, and I do like the fact that it's a little bit bigger than my Note 8. So I will show it to you guys when I get it. I wish more people that took that advice to heart and Trekker in fandoms, politics, social views, etc. Oh, me too. The world is too full of hate right now, and it's in every corner of our lives, whether it's our political opinions, our theological opinions, our general philosophical outlook on life, or even just those things we enjoy in leisure time, like fandom. But we're so obsessed with hating the bad guy that we forget that they're not really the bad guy. When it comes to one-on-one against Federation ships, I think the ships from SG-1 would be more than a match, faster, and I believe have more powerful weapons and shields. Well, on SG-1, I haven't seen enough space combat to justify that. But you see, and the weird thing, like with SG-1, everything is of such a different order, it is hard to get apples-to-apples comparisons. I'm going to try to do a breakdown of weapons of different empires in the near future, but that's... SG-1 is going to be a tricky one because, I mean, obviously some of the stuff is easy, like the machine guns, we know what they can do, and that they're rather primitive compared to Federation and stuff. But then when you look at the Gawauld weapons, it's kind of hard to say because... on the one hand, they have some advantages, they have some disadvantages. Like, for example, the staff weapon of the Jafar is obviously inferior to a phaser. If you consider how it fires, how it works, and how much damage it apparently does, I would say a phaser is a far better weapon. It's also the Jafar staff weapon. Jafar. Why did I say Jafar? Jafar staff weapon is also not particularly accurate. So that's something that could help you. Captain Marvel could provide a long toilet break. That is true. It's very true, Doctor. It's not all good versus evil in Trek. Most races are big gray areas of good and evil in Trekker, to broaden your point. Right, but the thing is that like Star Trek is about the human condition. Right, that's what and that's always been the case with Trek. And when you talk about shades of gray kind of thing, that's been in Star Trek from the very beginning. Don't let anybody fool you into thinking that TOS was all black and white and everything else was more nuanced. If you really believe that TOS is all black and white, watch Arena and pay attention to it. Watch Balance of Terror and pay attention to it. You will see levels of nuance with these characters, particularly the villains, that you did not realize before. Particularly Arena, in that Kirk was wrong all along. And that was... And at the end of the episode, Kirk realized that he was the bad guy. But while I like Star Trek more, I would consider myself a Star Wars fan also. To me, they're basically the different genres. I don't see it as a competition. I tend to agree with that, John. I'll tell you, I have been a Star Trek fan since 1968, which is the year I was born. But yes, it's true. I was watching Star Trek as an infant. If my mom were still alive, she would testify to that fact. I have been a Star Wars fan since 1977 when I saw Star Wars on opening day. So I will say that I have been a lifelong fan of both, or at least as close to a lifelong fan of Star Wars as is possible, since it didn't exist before 1977. And so I certainly don't say that the two are mutually exclusive. Like, just because I may like Trek more means Star Wars sucks. No, it means I love Trek and I love Star Wars, but Trek is my favorite. You know, that's the problem with the fandom is that they get to thinking like, oh, you like chocolate ice cream, so you hate vanilla ice cream? Well, screw you. No, that just means they love chocolate. All right, so I like Star Trek and Star Wars, but these days they could be made better. Yeah, they definitely could. Hola a todos. I have no idea what you just said, Hector, or what I just said. Dan, the creature didn't come out of his ear. They drilled a hole in his head with a power drill. I missed... Oh, so you're talking about something that happened in Stargate Atlantis, so I'm glad I don't know what you're talking about. Let's see. I prefer the Flash and Legends of Tomorrow to Supergirl. I got too far behind with Arrow. I'll tell you, I kind of gave up on the WB stuff. It just became too wash, rinse, repeat to me. And they started injecting all the political crap into it. So I was just like, I'm out. It's not worth it to me. Sean says the Holdo maneuver in The Last Jedi was the most stunning but stupid thing ever. I tend to agree. The Holdo maneuver, the visuals of the Holdo maneuver was beautiful. But yeah, it completely ruins all combat for Star Wars ever, because what was the point of the Death Star battle again? What was the point of any engagement that happens since the Holdo maneuver works? And besides that, it kind of contradicts what we knew about hyperspace and hyperdrives, because theoretically, when you go to hyperspace, you're dropping into another dimension and traveling basically a shortcut to get across the galaxy in just a matter of minutes. Then you drop out of that other dimension into normal space. And that makes sense to a certain extent, but you can't physically collide with something not in hyperspace if you're in hyperspace. You could only physically collide with something if you come out of hyperspace in an incorrect position. And I honestly think that's what Han was talking about in the first Star Wars movie when he said bounce too close to a supernova and stuff. I think what he's talking about is when you come out of hyperspace, if you're in the middle of a supernova, you're screwed, right? And that's kind of what happened in that they dropped out of hyperspace into the middle of what he thought was a meteor shower, but was the remains of Alderaan. Anyway, sports fans fights just like nerds. It's always been a minor frustration of mine that sports fans are more socially accepted. Well, the sports fans, I agree with you, Darren. Sports fans fanaticism is considered more quote unquote normal than nerd fandom, but it is basically the same thing. I think you're right. Thomas says you're friends with Bird O Nero 5 unsubbing. Well, okay, I'll take that one back. Misspelling, mispronunciation, I'm not bothered about, Andy Decker, but I will correct people. And that's the thing. I don't mind being corrected if I butcher a name or something. In fact, I expect you guys to correct me on that. However, it's when it turns into hate or, oh, you're disrespecting because you didn't know something. That kind of thing kind of pisses me off. Darren says, it reminds me of a joke about the fantasy football playing sports fans making fun of nerds for playing Dungeons & Dragons. Really? And Darren says, personally, I don't believe in hate speech. I reject the premise. I'll say this. I believe hate speech is a thing. I don't believe in hate crimes. Sorry. Had to grab a coffee thing because I have to have my coffee. Anyway, I believe that hate speech is and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying hate speech should be banned or shouldn't be covered by the First Amendment. In fact, I think it's vitally important that the First Amendment does cover hate speech. But hate speech is just inflammatory speech directed at a particular group of people, right? So, for example, if I sit here and go on a tirade against some specific ethnicity or some specific sexual orientation and suggest that these people are inferior in some way because of that thing, because of their ethnicity or their sexual preference or their gender or whatever, that is hate speech as it's defined in the modern era. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but I don't think it should be illegal. I just think, but for example, on a platform like YouTube, if they say we're not going to allow hate speech, fine, then clearly define what hate speech is, and we will make sure that we don't do it. The problem is that then you start defining terms so broadly and so inaccurately that you can't have a real conversation without it being called hate speech. So, for example, I will talk about a particular sexual, I don't want to say preference, but orientation that comes up a lot lately when it comes to bathroom choices and stuff. That there are certain people that genuinely believe that they are not what they are. Now, the problem is that for me to have an analytical discussion about it, I can say, and notice I'm being very careful not to actually say the term so that nobody can accuse me of hate speech here. But if somebody believes for example, if I was sitting there saying that I am Napoleon, right, like they used to do in cartoons back in the day, and I'm just sitting there going, I'm Napoleon, I'm Napoleon. Okay, the people with white coats would drag me away, pump me up full of medications, and then spend the next 10 years trying to convince me that I am not Napoleon. However, with this other delusion, I'll say I am, and we'll just throw something that doesn't make any sense. So I am a 3-armed man, right? I have 3 arms. No, you only have 2 arms. No, I have 3 arms. I see myself as having 3 arms. I absolutely have 3 arms. And so instead of pumping me full of medications, giving me therapy, and trying to convince me that I really only have 2 arms, the mental health community has decided to just say, yeah, you're right. You know what? You think you have 3 arms, therefore you have 3 arms. No! That is supporting a delusion. And that is morally wrong to support someone in their delusional thinking. However, I can't have that conversation because it would be considered hate speech. Because the people now that think that they have 3 arms is a protected class of people for some reason. That makes no sense to me. Sorry. So now, from now on, 3 arms, we know what that means. Picking up the vile child from her grandma to get coffee and donuts, so heading out. Have a great insert relative time period here. Obligatory plug. Check out my channel and eBay store. All right, Vile, have a good one. Sorry for my long rant. And Andre is here from Bosnia. Good to see you, Andre. As always, I was telling Mrs. Anti-Trekker about you yesterday. And how cool I thought it was that you always show up, and you, even though you say that same thing every single time, welcome from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and you don't say much else, Andre, honestly. I assume you enjoy the live streams because you're here almost every day and you always deliver that line, but you don't say much else. You don't engage in the conversation. But I was telling Mrs. Anti-Trigger how proud I was of the fact that this channel has got regular, loyal viewers from all over the world, including Bosnia, in your case, the UK in a few cases, South America, got a bunch of people in South America, got a bunch of people in Australia, and of course all across the United States and Canada. And I think that's really cool. That is diversity, people. That's a good thing. What's not diversity is telling people that think they have 3 arms that it's okay for them to think they have 3 arms. So, Uncle Remus says, yes, it's true. There's going to be 2 more Halloween films sequels. At this point, Jamie Lee Curtis, it looks like a piece of shoe leather. Maybe she needs to eat more Activia yogurt. Although I'll say this, Jamie Lee Curtis, I think, did a good job in the last Halloween film. And so if she's in them, I'm okay with it as long as they're well made. Tom Welling is back as Clark. Really? I assume that's going to be on the WB, but okay. See, again, you're talking metrics, and then you deny it. 15 kilometers, no miles, inches, feet, pounds, or ounces. It's like when you talk, I like it when you talk dirty. Well, the reason, though, Joseph, is when I'm talking about Star Trek and stuff, it's funny because in Star Trek, especially the original series, they tend to use, like, miles and kilometers interchangeably. But I try to use the measurements that I remember from the show. Did I miss something? Has Disney completed their takeover of the world? Predator is a horror, right? Not something Disney would put out normally. Yeah, but Disney now owns the Fox IPs, and that does include the Predator franchise, and that would be a very lucrative one if they can reboot it and make it work. I'm okay with it as long... I think Disney is probably going to do something similar to what they did with TriStar Pictures in the past and create a brand for Disney edgy content. And that's what TriStar Pictures was all about, was the idea that Disney could put out R-rated content without it having the Disney logo on it. So I'm totally okay with it. Let's see. The only thing I didn't like about the Last Blood teaser trailer, was the music and editing of it. And interesting that the hair is short in the film, though. Doesn't look like Rambo. I will have to check it out, Darren. I have not seen it. Wesley's in the house, says, hi, can't stay long. Well, welcome, Wesley, for the brief time that you are here, if you haven't already left. Night Breeze says, good morning, Trigger, and everyone. Good morning, Night Breeze. Wesley says, I just watched Bounce of Terror. It's funnier know that the actor later played Spock's father. Yes, Mark Leonard, he did such a great job as the Romulan commander that they invited him back as Spock's dad, and I think that was a great choice. It's funny because when they cast him as the Romulan commander, they were looking for someone that could pass as a family member of Spock, and they got Mark Leonard. And that was actually, if you read the novelization, the official novelization of that episode, the description of the Romulan commander was that he was a dead ringer for Spock. How about if Disney made a reboot Predator movie where the Predator hunts down deplorables? It could work. Maybe bring in Brie Larson. That's horrible. It's not just black on the left and white on the right, Ant Trekker. TOS, let's see. TOSB, that my last battlefield. Let that be my last battlefield. It's not just black on the left and white on the right. Oh, I see. Okay. Loke and what's his name? Beale. Don't forget, people, smash the like button, share via social, set chat to live, donate if you can, subscribe, and turn your mic on before you stream. Download Caroga and tornado sirens. Whee! Are you having tornado sirens, Roxanne? You're making me nervous. Try Legends with Constantine. Season 3 joins, I think. It's more funny. I heard someone say Constantine joined the cast, in which case that does bump it up. I did like Constantine. I thought it's too bad that his series didn't last, but I don't know. The WP stuff, I don't know. I might give it another shot, but right now, I just don't care about it that much. Wesley says, have a blessed day. May the Lord work through your doctors. Thank you, Wesley, and you take care of yourself. SOB Van Buren crashed into SOB Adams. JQ, both ships destroyed. Well, I hope you caught it on and recorded it, Bird, because that's something I would love to see. And by the way, Bird, you got your ship ready for our little joust that we were going to do? I'll go easy on you. Of course, now watch, Bird has like this massive battleship that's like 100 times bigger than anything that we've even dreamed of. What's the next ship's name, Wesley asked Bird. I think it should just be the SOB Dead. Mercer, I did not even like how the Holdo maneuver looked. It looked like a CGI screensaver. Give me a dogfight using motion control photography any day. Well, and that's the funny thing, because in a sense, the Holdo maneuver is something we should see in Star Trek. That kind of a thing. That would be a maneuver that I could see Kirk or Picard or Cisco coming up with. Is like, oh, what if we, engage the warp drive and right into an enemy ship? It's a desperate move at the end. I could see that. In Star Wars, you're right. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Star Wars is about dogfights, World War II combat. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to put that in there. Well, in Star Trek Into Darkness, we didn't get to see what the cannons would do on Vengeance. What the cannons would do on the Vengeance? What cannons? Because we did see, well, obviously the Vengeance did significant damage to the Enterprise. I think the Enterprise did some damage to the Vengeance, but I'd have to look. Yes, it'll be Tyler. It'll be the next one. Vader Star Destroyer almost did the Holdo maneuver in Rogue One. Well, that's true, but Vader Star Destroyer just kind of plowed through and just used simple inertia. I, of course, wasn't recording it, but it was supposed to be routine mining. Well, that's too bad. And then Peter says, Discord. You guys in Discord, you guys hate me. I know it. You're a bunch of jerks. And I see that you sent an article about science fiction fans now harder than football fans. That's a funny way to put it. And let me see here. Get back to that. All right. Wouldn't a supernova cause more massive gravity wave? That would pull the craft out of hyperspace. So bouncing too close to a supernova would pull you out into a very bad place. Well, a gravity wave, I don't... Now, Dr. Alex could probably explain better than me, but my understanding is it wouldn't send out a gravity wave. It would simply... the gravitational field of the area would change. However, the thing is that does gravity in normal space affect you in hyperspace? I don't know. And I'm not, the problem is that in Star Wars, and it's a problem, but it's not a problem. Star Wars doesn't get into the techie stuff like Star Trek does, right? So as far as, except for in, like, they have these books and other non-canon sources that try to say, oh, well, this is hypermatter, and a blaster has 17 gigatons of power and stuff like that, even though that's clearly not a very good measurement of the power. But as far as what we see on screen, there's very little hard numbers as far as how things work. Peter says harder means more powerful. Okay. Oh, you talking about in that article? Okay. I always looked at this as a function of the weapon is needed for. Let's see. Bradley is talking to Vile about. You're talking about the Holdo maneuver. I see. Okay. Captain Picard in season 2 said the lasers wouldn't affect the ship in any way. That's true, and this is another problem. And I've heard that argument a million times before from Trek fans, because yes, lasers have zero effect on a starship, particularly a starship with shields. Right? A laser is never going to penetrate the deflector shields of a starship. That being said, are turbo lasers lasers? Well, Star Wars fans would argue that no, turbo lasers are not lasers. They are actually supercharged plasma bolts they're supercharged by a laser, and that's why they're called turbo lasers. Which, yes, that's stupid, but it's a way to say they call it lasers, and the reason they call them turbo lasers is because George Lucas thought turbo lasers sounded cool back in the 70s, right? That's why they're called that. No other reason. Now, just like phasers were called phasers because the producers of Star Trek didn't want it to just sound like everything else and call it a laser, so let's call it a phaser. But so if a turbo laser is a laser, then obviously it would do no damage at all to a starship. If it is some kind of supercharged plasma, that puts it in the realm of where it could be very damaging. I mean, a supercharged plasma weapon in Star Trek would be an example of the Romulan plasma bolt from Balance of Terror. And interestingly enough, like the Romulan plasma bolt from Balance of Terror, turbo lasers have very limited range. And that's the only reason the Enterprise survived the first shot from the Romulan ship, is because they could outrun the bolt. Well, they couldn't outrun, but they could at least stretch out the time it took the bolt to hit it by going full reverse. And the bolt dissipated as it was moving towards the Enterprise. And I would say that the reason that if you want to argue that it's not a laser, it's a plasma bolt, I'm perfectly fine with that. But that's also why it has such short range, is that it dissipates as soon as it's launched. So, is believing you are not a hobbit also a delusion anti-checker, like having 3 arms? No, because I'm not a hobbit. Wesley, saying Bird is a dictator, that's Bird hate speech. No, calling him a dictator is a simple matter of fact. See, that's the thing. That's like saying, like, for example, Wesley, if I say that you are Wesley, that's not an insult. Now, some people might think that if I'm calling you Wesley Crusher, that is a very insulting thing, because they see Wesley Crusher as a very negative thing. However, calling you Wesley Crusher is simply a statement of who you are. So calling Bird a dictator is that's his job. That's what he does. Not only will they agree you have 3 arms, but they will help you get a 3rd arm surgically attached. That is very true, John. Obviously, someone who understood my analogy. It's annoying in Stargate Atlantis when, and of course you have people that think they have 1 arm and they have the arm removed. It's annoying in Stargate Atlantis when Wraith are using stunners to shoot at the Doctor. It's stupid. It does nothing. I haven't seen any Stargate Atlantis yet, Dan, so I don't know. Cinnabon says hi. Hey, Cinnabon, good to see you. Berlin, Germany here. Hey, Jim Kirk, good to see you in Germany. I have a... We had an exchange student from Germany when I was a kid, and really changed my attitude about Germans, because I always thought of Germans as being, horrible people because of World War II. But Karen, who stayed with us for a year when I was a kid, was the sweetest girl, and I saw her again a few years back. So just an absolute sweet person. So yes, not all Germans are evil dictators. Only BIRDOPREY is an evil dictator these days. I'm not in total agreement with you on the 3-arm thing. Well, that's all right. We can discuss it. But here's the thing. And remember, we are only talking about 3 arms people who think that they have 3 arms or people that think they only have 1 arm, right? And they have a 3rd arm surgically attached or an arm surgically removed. Now, you may, in your mind, be completely 100% convinced that you have 3 arms. That is called a delusion, because you have a perception of reality that is not true. Now, if you want to have a 3rd arm, and a 3rd arm can be cosmetically attached, I certainly understand that, but at the same time, for a mental health specialist to say, no, you really are a 3-armed person who just happens to only have 2 physical arms, then all you're doing is feeding into the delusion, and I don't think that's healthy. Yes, Jamie Lee Curtis is in the last 2 Halloweens. I got a feeling that Miss Strode doesn't survive the next 2. We'll see. I would like to see her survive. I don't want to see them kill her. Roxel says, remember, Aunt Trigger, Disney is the parent company of the studio that produced Showgirls. That is true. Rambo, Last Blood, prisoner has dementia, thinks he's being hounded by Iranians. Okay, that's different. Disney's she-predator hates mansplaining and loves science. John DeMarco says, Mark Leonard was brilliant casting. Agreed. Mark Leonard was so perfect for the role of Sarek. With a Romulan-Vulcan split, couldn't Spock have Romulan family? Theoretically, yes, but keep in mind that the Romulan-Vulcan split was so long ago that they didn't even remember it in recorded history. And so that would be like saying, well, you know that, for example, the modern-day Scots are descended of 2 groups of people, basically. The Picts, who were natives to what was then called Pickland, now Scotland, and the Celts, who came over from Ireland, right? So that's what the Scots make up. So, based on that, you could argue that if you're Scottish, that you could have Irish family, right? Because there was a split there, and the Celts settled in what we now call Scotland and all that. However, would you be able to track your family tree back that far? No. Which Trek do you think aged well and which Trek hasn't? Aged well, I would say TOS, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise have all aged remarkably well. I would say that Voyager and TNG and the animated series have not. And of course, the Discovery, yeah, it will not be aging well at all. Imperial Interdictor can pull ships out of hyperspace. Dan, we've never seen an Imperial Interdictor in a Star Wars film. So that's the thing. They're a cool idea, but in the films, never appeared. We're having tornado sirens. Check my Twitter or Instagram for video. Well, I can't check it right now, Roxal, but if you are in danger, take cover, my friend. I don't want to lose a subscriber when we're so close to getting over 9,000. A lot of ships in Star Wars, when destroyed, they point downward. That's true. And let's see. It's stormy here in Minnesota, too. Looks like night outside. Wow. It's pretty calm today here, but we had some rain last week. But Edringer, why can't Picard bring back Q and have him snap away Star Trek Discovery? Well, they could, but I don't think they're going to. And I don't think that... I personally think that what they should do is just leave Discovery alone at this point. Honestly, here's what if CBS hired me to take over the Star Trek brand, the last we saw Discovery, it launched 1,000 years into the future. That's the end of the story. We never see them again. That's it. Now that we're done with that crap, let's focus on the Picard series. Let's make a Pike series. Let's have some fun. But Discovery is done. Mark Leonard was the original Jeffrey Combs. He played all 3 major races in Star Trek before his cool. That's true. His first roles was a Romulan. He then played a Vulcan. And, of course, he played a Klingon in Star Trek The Motion Picture. He's the Klingon commander. And, of course, you couldn't tell under all that makeup, but, yes, he was there. Riker wanted to do it against the Borg. That's true. JJ Trek is still canon, just another timeline. That is also true. Thomas says, hi, this is Birdopre. Today we're going to attempt to fly the SOB Trump 987. This time I'm confident she'll fly. SOB onto the 988. Yes, that's what, That's what you do. You need your main flagship bird to be the Trump. Godspeed says, can you check Discord, please? It's a private message. I need your advice. All right, let me see here. Godspeed. And let me see. Well, I sent you a message back, Godspeed. Just I wanted to clarify what you were talking about, and so okay. Let's see. All right, so is that, and I would say, do it, and the way what I just described there, do it for a briefer period of time at first, and just make it incrementally longer if it continues. If that makes sense to you, Godspeed. But thank you for asking about that. I do appreciate it. Hot and humid is a bitch here in Texas. No thanks. Jim Kirk says, if I remember correct, something you are on warp, you twist space in front and behind you, so you can't warp into something as you would twist, push it away. Yeah, I've actually talked about that. As far as, suicide runs at warp speed really shouldn't work. Because if you're pushing space around you, guess what? If this object, which is in space, and you warp through it, even though it would look really weird because the space would be pushed apart, so it would be separated, and then the space would come back together, and it would come back together. From this thing's perspective, nothing happened. So that's because it's not inside the warp field. However, there's some inconsistency there. I'm not saying Star Trek is blameless in the consistency game, because their warp is extremely inconsistent. As for, why is it that phasers and torpedoes work at warp? There's been interesting fan theories on it. Resurrected Starship came up with the idea, and I kind of like it, the torpedoes have warp sustainers. Not warp engines, but warp sustainers, so that if you launch them at warp, they stay at warp. But, yeah. Ozzy says, Antrager, the Carogans have dangerous ships from what I've seen. Turkestan must free Crusher from under the thumb of the dictator, like the U.S. done to some German scientists in World War II. Defect, Wes! Cinnabon says, warm and sunny in California. No way, lies. The interdictor cruiser uses gravity generators to pull ships out of hyperspace. I know what an interdictor cruiser is, Nightbreeze. The problem is that they don't appear in film. And so if you want to do, and this is something that I know a lot of people have a problem with me about, but that's just the way that I am. I am not going to sit there and read Star Wars novels and watch Star Wars cartoons and all that and get all this secondary information to try and justify something. And I'm not going to do the same thing with Star Trek either, right? I'm not going to go argue that Star Trek has massive weapons range because it says it in the Starfleet Technical Manual. No, I'm basing it on what we see on screen. Why can't we get an American-made Star Blazers Yamato movie? Because it's too Japanese-centric. The same reason they've been struggling to do the Akira movie. And we've seen them attempt to do Japanese animes into major films before. And so far, not much success. Think of Ghost in the Shell. Think of Alita Battle Angel. It's just not smart for Hollywood to do that at this point. Darren says, Star Wars fans had to redefine turbo lasers into something other than a laser in order to respond to the Star Trek lasers argument. Phasers was chosen so they could trademark it. That's true. And let's see. Mr. Londell says, I think you misread my statement. I'm sorry, Mr. Londell. If I did, retell it to me. I have 3 arms. Blessed. Roll on the floor. Think about it. Okay. Yeah, you're bad. Leslie says, I believe he has a back. In reality, he has no back or legs. He is a poop. Oh, Antrager believes he has a back. In reality, he has no back. He is a poop. Okay, yeah, funny. Darren says, on Enterprise, the Vulcan-Romulan split was recorded in their history. Well, great. So you see, and that's just another instance of where Enterprise violates established canon, Darren, but thank you for that. Vikings in Scotland, which makes no sense, by the way, Darren, because if on Enterprise the Vulcan-Romulan split was part of their recorded history, why is it that they didn't know about it in Balance of Terror? Was Spock just really stupid? Vikings in Scotland too. That's true, but I was not trying to go for detailed history as much as just you get the idea. Thanks for your concerns regarding losing a subscriber. Don't worry, I can't unsubscribe for the grave. Well, thank you, Roxall. In that case, carry on. And let's see. Dahak says, we'll watch this late, man. Work calling. Peace out. All right, Dahak, take care. Of course, you're already gone because that was 6 minutes ago, but I hope you have a good day if you catch this later. Is there a new Star Trek short called Q&A? I don't think it's connected to a Star Trek novel once made called Q&A. No, they haven't really, as far as I know, the new short treks, while they've released the titles of them and they've shown the trailer, they don't really link up the titles to what scenes are in the trailer. I get the feeling that like some people think Q&A is a Q episode, right? Because Q Who, Q Squared, all that, you know, all the Q episodes start with Q in the title. And so they're thinking Q and A. Oh, it's going to be Q. Okay, that is a possibility, but that's not what I think is going to happen. I think Q&A is actually going to be the short trek in which we've seen in the trailer of Spock and Number One stuck in the elevator. And it basically is Spock asking Number One all these stupid questions and making all these statements and all that they show in the trailer. And it's probably going to be annoying. All right. So let's see. Lore, hey Bird, what's the sub count? Bird, it's over 9,000. And then Lore, what's 9,000? Do you think a Pike series is a possibility or wishful thinking of the nerd community? I think a little of each. It's going to really depend on management over at CBS during this merger. I think that if they're smart, and if you look at the fandom in general of from Discovery Season 2, that the one thing that even, like, so you have your absolute diehard, we hate Discovery people, right? So, for example, Mecha Random, Nerdrotic, Doomcock, right? These guys, and I'm certainly not saying anything bad about any of those guys. They're all my friends. But, you know, they are diehard. They cannot stand it, right? Then you have people that disliked it quite a bit, but still see some potential, right? It's people like myself. And then you, maybe Lore Reloaded. Then you have people that actually like it, right? And so, like, what's his name? Ketwalski. Or you know, Daniel's Hot Topics. And so, but the one thing that across the board all these people agree with was Pike was pretty good. And Spock was a lot better than anybody was expecting him to be. And better than by all rights he should have been. So, if you actually have one element in the show that the fans agree upon in a positive way, because Mecha has said some good things about Pike and Spock, Nerdrotic has said good things about Pike and Spock, Doomcock has said good things about Pike and Spock, I've said good things about Pike and Spock. If you look at that and you say, the people that we're going for, the new wave of whatever fans that we're trying to get for Star Trek, and the old guard all seem to like the Pike-Spock dynamic. Why don't we do a show about that? See, that's the logical thinking there from the executives. So they should. Will they? I don't know, but they absolutely should. And I know that there's been a lot of rumor that the Section 31 show is going to be scrapped and replaced by a Pike show. It's all rumor at this point, but I hope it's a true one. Wesley says the SOB Trump would be so big, orange and gold, it would blow up the server and no one could play anymore. Yes, but I would still want to see it. Bird says, how could the Romulan ship not have warp power in the Balance of Terror? Their plasma weapons shot at warp speed. Also, they wouldn't be able to reach the neutral zone. It would take days. Makes no sense. Therefore, Balance of Terror was a terrible episode. Prove me wrong. Well, that's actually an interesting question, Bird. And there's been some, because here's the thing. In Balance of Terror, there are there's a couple of things you have to take into account. One is that it is a season 1 episode, and not all the classic tropes of Trek had even been established yet. One of the problems in the episode is that they fire phasers set to proximity blast because nobody had thought of the photon torpedo yet. The photon torpedo made its first appearance a couple of episodes later. And so when they were talking about the power of the Romulan ship, I think that the Romulan ship does have warp drive, but it does not have a matter-antimatter reactor like the warp core of a Federation starship. And the reason for that is that when they're discussing it in the meeting, Scotty simply says their power is simple impulse. Now, what that would indicate is that looking at the Romulan ship, that it's powered by fusion reactors, which is what the Enterprise impulse engines are powered by. And then Kirk says, so we can outrun them. And of course, so that's where people were thinking, warp drive. You see, it's not that the Romulan ship doesn't have warp capability, it's that its power levels are infinitesimally smaller than a matter-antimatter reactor because they had simple fusion reactors, and so they could never achieve the kind of speeds the Enterprise can. Because keep in mind that when the Enterprise is cruising along at warp 7, that matter-antimatter reactor in the engine room is going at 100% capacity. Right? Warp 8 is the fastest the ship can go and maintain any kind of safety margin, and even that is very dangerous. So, but that's the matter-antimatter reactor going full bore. If you have to go on fusion reactors, you're not able to generate a warp field of that magnitude. And so the Balance of Terror Romulan flagship could probably only achieve a speed of maybe warp 1, warp 2. So, so that's my explanation for it, Bird. The truth is, it really just hadn't been thought out yet as far as the details of how it all works, but that's how it works in universe. And Zintac says, hey, Land Tracker. Hey, Zintac, I hope you are doing well. Says, all animated real-life movies suck. Well, so far, that is unfortunately true. And John DeMarco kind of very briefly put what I just spent way too long explaining. Scotty said the Romulan ship's power was simple impulse. That doesn't mean they don't have warp. That's true. So you count Star Trek shows, but not Star Wars shows. Who cares if it's animated? Does TOS animated count as canon? Funny you should ask that, Wesley, because the answer to that is no. TOS animated does not count as canon, at least not according to Gene Roddenberry before he passed away. But and there are things in the and it's TAS, not TOS animated, TAS for the animated series. But if you look at the animated series, there are some things that are definitely contradictory to everything else we've seen in Trek. For example, the first holodeck appeared in the animated series, and then, a generation later, Riker was impressed by this newfangled holodeck technology, right? So there are, and they also had life support belts and personal force fields and stuff like that in the animated series. A lot of which was writing conveniences, so that the filmation company didn't have to redraw the characters with spacesuits on. So, anyway, but Star Trek started as, and really only works best as, a television franchise. It is a television franchise at its core. Star Wars is best at, and for me at least, only works as a film franchise. And a Star Wars film is an event. A Star Trek episode is an episode. And so that makes going to see a Star Wars movie a bigger event than watching an episode of Star Trek. But it also means that Star Trek has more continuous production than Star Wars over its lifetime. As far as I don't read secondary material to when I'm trying, if I'm watching a movie. If I have to read a book to understand how this movie works, then the movie failed, right? So like a lot of people were upset that Nero from Star Trek 2009 was underdeveloped, And a lot of the response from certain people who really like Star Trek 2009 was, well, you just need to read the Countdown comic book, because Nero is explained in great detail in the Countdown comic book, which is true, but they're proving the point. I will not be bound to a comic book in order to understand the villain of the film. And so if I have to go to another source, then it's already failed. Unless that source is itself. So, for example, if I want to, if I'm watching Return of the Jedi and I need to refer back to The Empire Strikes Back, that's perfectly fine, because that's the subsequent film in a series of films. But if I have to go to the Star Wars Holiday Special or some novel or a kids show that takes place during the Clone Wars or whatever, then you lost me. And I'm sorry, but and I know some people love Clone Wars and Rebels, and I'm not knocking those people for liking them, and I know that they're awesome in their own way. I can't stand the style of those shows. I really don't like it. It looks amateurish, it looks cheap, and it also, and quite frankly, when I watched some of it, I didn't get into the story. But honestly, the Clone Wars never really were all that exciting to me anyway. I think the Clone Wars were better served in the original film as just a reference point to where Obi-Wan was in the military. Anyway, Roxanne says, and you call me a jerk, anti-checker. Well, you are a jerk. Let's see. Godspeed says, how many do you think is in the wills to delete internet history and burn the laptop? How many do you think it's in their, it's in their wills to delete internet history and burn the laptop? I don't know, but pretty much anybody that's smart probably should. Nicole says, well, she said fugly as all get out, but NXTRD as F101 flies great. Oh, good. I didn't know you had a ship there, Nicole. I'll have to check it out. So it's the NXTRD AF. They don't have to fire weapons while if they don't have to fire if they don't have the power to fire weapons while they're cloaked, they should not have the power required to go to warp. Agreed. And I don't think we ever see them go to warp while cloaked. And think about it this way. And Darren is, of course, our resident expert on submarine combat because he was a submariner. But think about it this way: is that a submarine running silent is not running fast. Darren, correct me if I'm wrong about that. I think if they're smart, well then, no. Yeah, that's very true. Peter, there's Lore Reloaded, Trek Yards, NEP podcast, and Trigger. They saw stuff to dislike and some potential too. Yes. And that's why I say there are people all over the gambit with Discovery. And I think that, but if they all agree that Pike was awesome, then damn it, do a Pike show. There was a Star Wars Legends novel called The Last Jedi. There's actually, I have an issue of the Marvel Star Wars comic book called The Last Jedi as well. Pike series, Wishful Thinking. Robert April series, Wishful Thinking ×2. Picard series, actually being good. Forget it. Well, wishful thinking is okay as long as we don't get angry when those wishes don't come true. As far as Picard series being good, I will let you know when it comes out. What I think, anyway. And Trigger, the Vulcans didn't know what happened to the Romulans. The Romulans did know the story of the separation, which I'm okay with that part of it. Like, if you want to say that the Vulcans didn't know what happened to the splinter group that ran off into the stars, 10,000 years ago or whatever it was, but the Romulans have it in their recorded history, which that would actually make sense. Peter says Pike and Spock were the high point. Agree 100%. And Bird says, I have a doctor's appointment, about to leave, Skype closed. All right, Bird, well, you have a good one, my friend, and I hope your doctor's appointment goes well and that you then have a great stream and all that crap. Hail King Tut, the king of all nerds. Okay. The character I liked from Pike's crew the most was Boyce, ship's doctor. He comes into Pike's room and makes him a martini. So Navy. Yeah, I like Boyce. But I didn't like much else in the cage, I'll be honest with you. Yesterday we got trailer for Kerbal Space Program 2. I saw that and it looks good, but the funny thing is the part where I'm like, wow, this looks really good, and then at the bottom of the screen says not actual gameplay footage. And on top of that, it still doesn't look like they've incorporated combat into it, even though they showed a couple of ships crashing into each other. But we'll see. I will definitely check it out when it comes out next year. Yesterday, just read that Darren says, Enter, I just assumed that proximity phaser simply meant a torpedo-like weapon that we never saw again, kind of like a submarine sub-rock weapon, which was only around for about 5 years. Well, yeah, and the thing, I think the proximity phasers was really just photon torpedoes without the term photon torpedo. But yeah. The actor who played Pike in Discovery was in the Inhumans TV show, which flopped. That is true, but Anson Mount did a fine job as Pike. And I never saw the Inhumans TV show, but you know what? That just goes to show that a good actor, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything they do will be good. Peter says, I see they're bringing out Kerbal Space Program 2 and Trigger Bird of Prey. Scott Manley has a video up today about it. Yes, there's a trailer out, and I'll definitely check it out, but I still want them to honestly do incorporate combat. If they incorporate combat, I would probably go for Kerbal even above Space Engineers, although I love Space Engineers. And Ray Settler put in 500 of something into the super chat. Thank you so much. Wants to know when the next the next part of the Galaxy Quest review is coming out. Thank you for asking, and thank you so much for the generous super chat, even though I have no idea 500 PHP could be like $1.98, but thank you so much. The next part of that Galaxy Quest review, which will be the final part of the Galaxy Quest review, I'm going to be working on as soon as I finish this stream. In fact, I'm going to be winding up the stream in just a minute. I'm feeling it that I'm going to get past the writer's block today. I've been fighting to get it done for the last month, and I am truly sorry, guys. But yes, I am going to push my way through this one way or another. I may need lots of alcohol. But let me get caught up in the chat, and then I will get to it. Let's see. Star Trek Discovery had so many female characters, it was hilarious. It kind of was. I mean, they really overdid it. And let's see. Where Paramount never considered the animated series to be canon. Yes, that is true. Godspeed. But Mr. Trekker, the Discovery had hologram technologies. Explain that Mr. Trekker is bad writing and no STD. No, it can't be. Well, it's funny. And I have to, Mr. Miles, who unfortunately I don't think is here right now, he caught something that I never did from the original series. Let me see if I can find it. Because I know exactly what the image is that I'm looking for. Let's see. All right, so there's Decker. Dang it. All right, so I'm going to actually, let me bring up CBS. You guys, I think that this is actually really, really cool that Mr. Miles found this. So I apologize for taking a minute here, but this, I think, will be one of those cool things. All right, so we'll go to shows, and let's just go search. Come on, you. All right, Star Trek. And then the Doomsday Machine is second season. All right, and where are you, Doomsday Machine? Let me see. About time, who mourns, changing mirror, the apple. There it is. Doomsday Machine. Alright, so bring that up. Come on. Load, you stupid thing. Bear with me, guys. Almost there. Alright. Kill the volume because I don't want to get DMCA'd. Alright, and there's Kirk. Alright, almost got it. Alright. So in this scene from the Doomsday Machine, you see, well, right now Kirk's talking to Scotty about the status of everything. Kirk's talking to Spock. Enterprise cruising around. Da 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 da. And is this it? Come on, show me. There we go. Okay, so there's Decker on a Federation shuttlecraft right here, right? So, but this is the kicker here, is that if we watch, so we're going to see, by the way, nice shot of the shuttle. I do like the original shuttles. I don't care what anybody says. All right, right here. Notice that, if you follow my mouse pointer here, this clear plastic circle with lines glowing on it, which, you know, you've all seen these things. You can buy them now at Walmart for next to nothing, where it's basically like a decorative piece of art with a light underneath it that reflects off of etched parts of the plastic to give it that kind of glowy look. And it's a neat little thing that people can do for various pieces of art. However, what Mr. Miles was suggesting is that what you're seeing there is a 1960s prop master's attempt at creating a physical hologram. Yeah? Not, I know that's a bit of a stretch, but I think that that actually makes a certain amount of sense. So that could be the explanation for that. So I know, long drawn out thing to explain something's pointless. I agree wholeheartedly on the idea that the film or film series needs to stand on its own, not rely on exterior works like novels and comics to be understood. Yes. Midnight's Edge mentioned something this morning that I agree with. The newer Star Wars films do not have any moments like the original where Luke's staring out of the two suns setting. That's true. Star Wars was about a sense of wonder. And yeah, that doesn't exist in the new ones. Night Breeze is taking off. Have a good one. Take care, Night Breeze. Generally speaking, a submarine running silent will not be moving at flank. Bell, true, but some of them can move pretty fast, relatively speaking, while silent. Okay, well, I stand corrected on that, but I still think, I still think that warp drive would not be practical while cloaked. And in fact, in Deep Space Nine, they even talk about that the Romulan ships have trouble with warp drive, masking their warp fields when they are cloaked. All right, and let's see. Man, I got my screen fully screwed up, so let's see. Pike and Spock, right, read that yesterday, got that. Man, what the heck happened? All right, there's the Midnight's Edge comment. There's that. Hope we'll get some Picard live reviews. Oh, absolutely. We will, when the Picard series premieres, that's definitely going to be on the docket. Trek Reviewer, what if the development of the character took place during a scene that was cut from the original movie but added back in a later version, and then is that then canon? The canonization of like a director's cut or something like that is purely up to the owner of the IP. So, for example, there are director's cuts of Star Trek, the motion picture, Star Trek 2. I think there's a director's cut of Star Trek 3 and a couple others. But is the director's cut, for example, in the director's cut of Star Trek 2, they establish that Saavik is Vulcan and half Romulan. So is that canon that Saavik is half Romulan? That's up to the producers, at CBS or soon to be CBS Viacom. They can simply say, yeah, she's been Romulan all along, and move on with it. Or they could say, no, that was a deleted scene, forget it. So, but it is up to the IP holder. And then there's Ray. Ray, thank you so much for the 500 PHPs. And says, when are you going to finish the Galaxy Quest review? Which I think I answered already, but yes, I'm going to get to that. I'm actually going to be working on that all day today after I get off of here. And less PHP's Philippines. Yeah, that's what I figured. And you guys don't have to do the math to figure it out, because you know what? Any donation via Super Chat or whatever is always appreciated. I joke about the $1.98 because I think about the peso when it was really bad, or the yen. But honestly, whatever you guys, those of you that can support the channel, whatever you can give is always appreciated. I don't care if it's $1 or $1,000. Granted, I prefer the $1,000, but whatever. If don't, but you don't need to calculate it. I just thank you. I didn't see if you responded, but are you going to get a Note 10? Yeah, I did respond, actually, Rock Solid, is that I am getting a Note 10 because of my employer, and I will show it off as soon as I get it. And I understand it's supposed to be released in like about 3 days, so I don't know when I'll receive it, but I'm very much looking forward to it. Trekavir, my first comment was a reference to what I said about you last night. Well, you see, here's the problem. You're being too vague on me. I don't remember. I'm horrible. If they did a Pike series, I'd like to see a flashback to his taking command of Robert April with the NX-01 refit making a cameo. That would be really cool. I would actually dig that. I think that a Pike series is the best way to get Star Trek back on the right foot, because even though the visual style is a bit much, it at least felt something like Star Trek when it was Pike and Spock on the screen. So I would be down with that. Although they need to fix those damn uniforms. That collar on their uniforms is so stupid looking, in my humble opinion. Darren says, today on the Anti-Trigger, the Anti-Trigger searches for something on his computer drive. Are you ready for excitement? Thrills! Yes. That's me. Miles is on crack. Is he? I'm sorry. I'm not sure why you're saying that. The reason why a submarine would find it harder to maintain acceptable decibel level at higher speeds is because it's making a lot more noise at higher speeds. Yes. And in the realm of Star Trek, when it comes to a cloaking device, it's that energy of a warp core. That might be why they have just fusion reactors, because a matter-antimatter reaction would be too much for the cloaking device to be able to mask it all. And so that would actually make a lot of sense. And that could be why the Romulans then later on went to the controlled singularity drive instead of a matter-antimatter reaction. Maybe easier to conceal via cloak. CinemaSins put out an Everything Wrong with Star Trek 2 Wrath of Khan this morning. It's pretty good. CinemaSins is a fun channel. Sometimes he annoys me because sometimes he'll point out as sins things that are clearly not. But I know it's all done in the name of a joke, so I don't think that, like, oh, wow, he's an idiot. I just think, oh, that's kind of a cheap shot, But because I know everything they do on CinemaSins is just meant as a joke. But I do enjoy a lot of his videos. I would love to see in Star Wars, you see 2 Jedi going into an old facility where they give power and hundreds of maps, and you can see them looking at the maps with wonder and awe and say, let's go. Not sure why you said that, Godspeed. Director's cut of Star Trek 6, the assassination scene is totally different from the movie version. Yes. That's a good example. The assassination scene from Star Trek 6 is very different. Which is canon? Well, unless it really matters, it doesn't, that's the thing. Until that, like when I was talking about Saavik being Romulan, unless her heritage becomes the subject of a future story, it doesn't matter. Doctor Who Daleks Invasion Earth TV episode in the 60s, there was a guy on the set that actually said something about the base of the Dalek world, levitate them up. Didn't use that until the 80s. No, I didn't know that one. Discord Anti-Trekker, some teas we missed in Spider-Man Far From Home? What did you do this time, Peter? You guys in freaking Discord, I swear you hate me. And let's see, so there's a picture. I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking at here. Let me zoom in a bit and see. So this is one of the images that you sent. And I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking at here other than... because it's a little fuzzy. I'm just not 100% sure what the point of that is. And there's another shot. Yeah, I'm not sure what the point of this picture is. I'm probably just feeling like a complete idiot missing it. So what am I missing in these images? And so, Peter, you got to tell me, what am I missing here? I cried so much when Sarek died on TNG, more than Spock ever did. Yeah, I actually thought that they handled Sarek's death pretty well. A Note 10 ships Friday and checker. I have a 9 and fiance is an 8. We'd like to upgrade, but not having the device payments is nice right now. Yeah, the device payments on a phone like that ain't. Yeah, that can suck. In the motion picture, you see images on a wall of all the Enterprises, and Captain Archer's is not there. That's correct. The motion picture and Enterprise do both have an image of the Ring Enterprise. Yes, the Ring, and it's funny because the Ring Enterprise has showed up as kind of an Easter egg kind of thing, but it's never been seen, which is too bad. I'd like to see it. On the construction protection while I trigger, check the colors of the numbers too, and the figures next to the numbers. Right. Oh, okay. Well, no, I see. If you're talking about, I see the picture, but I mean, let me switch back here. So, and I'm sure I'm like just being a complete idiot on this. So on the construction protection wall, I try to check the colors of the numbers. So we have the number 2 is gold. Number 3 looks like it's kind of a blue, and I can't quite make out that number, but it's like gray. And then we have, and the silhouettes of the people. I like that looks like it could be a. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm. What you? It's it's next. So you're saying that that's like supposed to be the Fantastic Four? I see. To show you what comes next. But so 2, 3 question mark, like 4. Is that what you're saying? So it's like a hint that the Fantastic Four is coming, which I could see that. But let me get back. Let's see. Arcor, how to use the ward room and send it to you on Discord. Thank you, my friend. That would be helpful. And let's see. Jeremy from CinemaSins reminds me of Steve Shives for sometimes with his politics, but he's not as heavy-handed. Yeah, that's where I get a little annoyed with CinemaSins, is when he does rarely, but occasionally put his political views into it, and I don't like that at all. I really don't. Secondary materials should enhance and maybe explain minor plot points missed by most viewers. It should not be homework to enjoy primary source material. I agree 100%, Thundercats. To quote Bill Murray in Meatballs, regarding it's not a TV show or movie, if it's not in the TV show or movie, it just doesn't matter. Again, I agree. Let's see. Enterprise leaves space dock similar to TMP. April disembarks to NX-01 refit when an aged Admiral Archer cameos and says to April, the voyage continues, and Enterprise warps off. I could definitely see them doing something like that. The problem is that I don't think they're going to want to give homage to Archer or the NX-01 because they like their visual style for some reason, which is not very good, but yeah. I'm not sure if the original Star Trek movie Klingon Birds of Prey can use a transporter when it's cloaked. They never established whether they could use transporters or not. 1, 2, 3. Next, it's 4 and checker and to tease Phase 4 in a certain group of characters. Okay. I still. I think it's a little vague, but I could see. I want to see the Fantastic Four. Obviously, you guys know that. All right, I gotta get this caught up because I'm way behind. They had him lying on a rock slab, incoherent. Sarek, wake up. Then Picard says hi, and he goes from being incoherent to, hi, Picard. How are you, bro? That, okay. Eagle Moss is making a Ring Enterprise. Yes, they actually, I have one somewhere, and unfortunately, when the shelf came crashing down, I haven't gotten everything put. But yeah, I actually have the Eagle Moss Ring Enterprise. Can you not zoom in on the picture? I tried downloading it and zooming it in there. Well, it's a little blurry. That's the problem. And Steve Shives has gotten so bad, I don't even downvote his videos anymore. Honestly, Bird, I don't watch Steve Shives that often, except for when I occasionally see a Trek Actually video, because his political videos, of course, I find insulting for the most part. But but I haven't seen a Steve Shives video since before I've been home with the back pain. Let's see. There's quite a few different versions of Star Trek movies. You get the theatrical original, home release, extended, director's cut, HD, special edition, 4K. Yes. But the important thing is, like, if any of them can be canon, and it's purely up to the owners. Take a look at the stocky guy on the wall. You think it's not the shadow of Ben Grimm? It doesn't look like the Thing to me. It could be Ben Grimm before he's transformed, but it doesn't look like the Thing to me. In Star Trek 4, Gillian is beamed onto the bird of prey while it's cloaked. Ah, good point, John. Thank you. Good point. However, the engines are also off, so that could be, yeah. Talking about Sarek, his death made no sense. I disagree. I think his death made... I mean, it was a degenerative disease that he was dying of. Hey, nerds, and not as evil as Bird and Trekker. Hey, Epic, how you doing? Yeah, I might watch a few of his Star Trek. Talking about Shives. Yeah, Alex, I'll watch his Star Trek videos, but his political stuff, I'm not interested in. Steve Shives can't really upload anymore since you shot his keister into deep space. That's true. That's on me. So I'm truly sorry, Steve. If you ever make it back to Earth, please forgive me. Good thing he's a Kerbal, so he can't die. All right, so with that, I am going to wrap it up, guys, because I do want to get some work done on this Galaxy Quest review. And I have 500 Filipino reasons to get it done. So thank you all for hanging out with me, for being the best damn crew on YouTube, and I absolutely mean that. Thank you for putting up with me during this difficult time in my life, but your support has meant the world to me and Mrs. Anti-Trekker. And yes, even Auntie as she sleeps. But take care, and don't forget to write or something. Solid throws a buck into the chat just before the credits finish, so I gotta come back and say thank you, Rock Solid. I do truly appreciate it.
I got him! Great kid! Don't get cocky.
So thank you for that, and of course, if you want a super chat, you know the drill. 1 through 26. Give me a number. I will put it up there for you. And he wants number 6. Darth Maul says, you can keep the Disco Enterprise visual and contrast it to the NX-01 refit. It'd be a ship open to us Trek. I would rather them do something like that. You know, even though I want to see the classic Connie back, because I still think the classic Connie is the best looking ship in all of Trek. But if they use the Disco Enterprise and they bring in the NX-01 refit, I would be okay with that. But I don't think that they're going to. And Rock Solid wants number 6. Let's bring up number 6.
Ah, the suffering. I have such sights to show. Oh. What's the...
There we go. And thank you once again to all of you for being so awesome and putting up with me this really, really bad time this year. I tell you, it's funny because this last year and a half, well, actually, it's almost 2 years now. It'll be 2 years in a little over a month since I started the channel. And it's been, in the words of Kirk in Star Trek II, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Because on the one hand, you guys have helped out more than I can say. You guys have been awesome. And I've made a lot of new friends through, and you guys are just terrific. On the flip side of that, my sister-in-law died, my mother-in-law died. I've been out for the last couple of months with my back pain. It's been an infuriatingly difficult time for me as well. But you guys brought me through. And as the old song goes, I get by with a little help from my friends. And if I was in Oregon, I could do something else with a little help from my friends. I think that's how it goes.